Thank you very much, Acting Speaker. I also rise to speak on the Casino and Gambling Legislation Amendment Bill 2021, following my good friend and colleague, the member for Euroa, in her contribution. Acting Speaker, I note that the member for Euroa has also moved a House amendment during the course of her contribution as well, and I intend to address that briefly. I think it's an important House amendment that member for Euroa has moved. I understand that the government's stated intent in bringing this bill to the Parliament is to increase transparency and accountability on the part of Crown, and the amendment that the House amendment that the member for Euroa moved would further increase that stated intent of the government if in fact the government agreed to it. And so that's why we on this side of the House, Acting Speaker, believe that that House amendment is an important amendment to increase accountability and transparency when it comes to Crown. Now, Acting Speaker, there is no doubt that Crown Casino and the businesses that operate within the precinct on South Bank in the capital of our state in Melbourne is a powerhouse of employment, and Crown's ongoing operation in this state will be critical to our own state's recovery, especially as we come out of this pandemic. But that should not exempt Crown from its obligation to the Victorian people, and should not exempt Crown from its obligation indeed to the Parliament and the social licence that operations such as casinos have with the broad community as well. This bill, of course, seeks to amend various casino and gambling related acts to implement recommendations of the Royal Commission and to strengthen the oversight and regulation of casino operators, and further to establish the Victorian Gambling and Casino Control Commission. Acting Speaker, as I'm advised, this is the first of two bills to deal with recommendations from the Royal Commission into the Casino and Operator Licence, and that the Commission itself was established to inquire into and report on the suitability of Crown Melbourne to hold its casino licence. This was preceded by the New South Wales Bergen inquiry, which found, Acting Speaker, that Crown Melbourne facilitated millions of dollars to be laundered through a bank account of its subsidiary, and that Crown Melbourne allowed operators with links to organised crime to arrange for junket players to gamble at the casino. Now, Acting Speaker, as I'm aware, the government was, well, more or less dragged kicking and screaming to announce this Royal Commission in the first place. It was announced with little to no fanfare at all. I'm pretty sure it was announced on a Thursday afternoon, something like that, a Thursday afternoon by the Minister, not by the Premier, by the Minister. It was certainly lowballed, and it was under great pressure, not only from those on this side of the chamber, but also following the New South Wales Bergen inquiry, which found some very questionable things in relation to the operation of Crown Casino in Melbourne. Now, Commissioner Ray Finkelstein, AOQC, handed down his final report, the Royal Commission report, on the 15th of October 2021. He made 33 recommendations, and he stated that for many years Crown Melbourne has engaged in conduct that is, in a word, disgraceful. This is a convenient shorthand for describing conduct that was variously illegal, dishonest, unethical and exploitative. Pretty damaging words, Acting Speaker, damaging words indeed. And despite finding that Crown was unsuitable to hold the casino licence, the Commissioner stopped short of recommending that the licence be torn up. And in coming to his final recommendation, he pointed to the risk that the cancellation of Crown Melbourne's licence would cause considerable harm to the Victorian economy and innocent third parties. The amendment that the member for Euroa has raised and has raised in this place refers to the position of the Special Manager, which is part of the government's bill, is a regulator to oversee the affairs of Crown operations. But it is not required in section 36G subsection 4, Acting Speaker, of the bill to publish the report to the Minister. And if I just briefly refer to that section, it reads, the Minister or the Commission may disclose a report or anything in it only if the Minister or Commission considers it in the public interest to do so. We have concerns with that, Acting Speaker, because it's our view that the report of the Special Manager should indeed be made public. The best way to deal with issues of this kind that have been pointed out not only by Commissioner Finkelstein but also the New South Wales Bergen inquiry relating to Crown Melbourne is for the sun to shine in and on, Acting Speaker, as much of Crown and its activities as possible. And why the government would choose not to release such a report is beyond us. We think it should be released, and that's why we've moved that House amendment, which reads, the Minister must cause a copy of each report given to the Minister under this section to be presented to each House of Parliament within 7 days after receiving the report, or if a House is not then sitting on the first sitting day of that House after that period. We think that will in fact increase the transparency and accountability in relation to Crown and its capacity to hold a licence here in Victoria. Now, why the government doesn't agree with that and why the government didn't include that as part of its drafting of this bill is beyond us, but we think it should be included, and that's why we've moved that amendment, which we proffer to the House for its consideration. This bill, of course, covers matters relating to, as I've mentioned, the Special Manager, automatic cancellation of licence, powers of the regulator, increasing obligations of the casino to cooperate with the regulator, ensuring the state can act swiftly and effectively on the Royal Commission's recommendations, compensation payable to Crown and the Victorian Gambling and Casino Control Commission. Something else of note, Acting Speaker, which I found deeply concerning actually, the government's response to the Royal Commission, which was in fact a substantive report, given the circumstances in which the Royal Commission was established in the first place, as I've addressed previously, and the fact that the scope of the inquiry also was questionable, and we raised issues in relation to that in this place on a number of occasions, and the member for Euroa did that very capably. The Royal Commission's report was a 652-page report, Acting Speaker, a substantive report, 652 pages. And without hazarding a guess, I don't think that the majority of those pages were, fancy pictures with call-out boxes for quotes from various people. It was a substantive, wordy report. And yet, Acting Speaker, the government's response to the report was 1, 2.5 pages. It's a fair question to ask, Acting Speaker. How seriously did the government take the Royal Commission into these very serious matters if the government's response to a 652-page report by Commissioner Finkelstein, if their response is simply 2.5 pages of response? The bill itself, Acting Speaker, goes over some 20 pages or so, and there is serious and legitimate questions to ask about the government's seriousness in responding to these issues. Acting Speaker, in closing, I once again commend to the House and to members of this place for their consideration, their active consideration, and I hope support the House amendment moved by the member for Euroa. With the passing of that amendment, this bill will be a better bill.